We are back on the Boulevard. It is Thursday, May 11th. We are presented by the Believe Network. Always remember, there is no such thing as football season. 12 weeks of XFL action have led us to this. And for the first time in my life covering sports, I was right about something. The DC Defenders had the best team in the league since training camp back in January. And if you've been watching Springball Boulevard since episode 0, you already knew that. Now it's time to make it official, because in 48 hours, the DC Defenders will take the field against the Arlington Renegades in the Alamodome in San Antonio to chase their dream of an XFL championship. And we can only hope, guys, we get a pregame promo from The Rock that was just as good as the one he delivered back in the Bowl a couple years ago. I mean, that was electric. National television, Super Bowl audience. Why don't we bring that to the XFL championship game and more? I want to smell what The Rock is cooking here. This means a lot for ownership, players, coaches, fans. This is everybody's chance to deliver. And on the biggest stage of the year, DC Defenders and the Arlington Renegades ready to go in just about 48 hours. Let's bring in somebody who has no horse in the race but was kind enough to help those out who do. The producer, director, and owner of the humble abode we call Studio Z, Chris Zook. Surprise! Where are we headed on the 8th stop of the Boulevard Bowl Tour?
We're going to the ship. We're going to the ship.
Let's go. San Antonio, Texas. We are coming for you. Both Zook and I have been to Texas before. Never have either of us been more excited. No offense, Texas. We love you. But I could not pick a better reason to go see a football game. Zook, are you amped for this or what?
Words can't express how amped I am. This is great. I had a bang couple days off of work here.
Would be more amped if it was Seattle, though, right?
Of course. I mean,
had to get my snide remark in.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, send us your booze recommendations, your food. We want to go out to the Riverwalk, get out on the town, meet some of you guys. San Antonio, a city I've never been to. I've been to Texas a couple times, but I've had some friends of the show tell me that it gets real down there, and it looks like it's going to be about 95 degrees and humid. Bring it on. Bring all the heat. If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. That's what I say, Zook.
I might wear no shirt or something.
In the true form of the XFL and the spirit, let's go for it. We're all in. The last stop of the 2023 Boulevard Bowl Tour, coming to the XFL Championship in San Antonio. But we still have a show to do for you tonight. And on tonight's show, we thought it was important to circle back around to Week 9. Take a little bit of a rewind. Well, what happened in Week 9? Well, not only did the Seattle Sea Dragons whoop up on St. Louis, which is the game of the week, but there was a sneaky other game that happened in Audi Field in front of a sold-out crowd between DC and Arlington. That was a noon kickoff. Maybe a lot of you didn't take it as seriously as you did Seattle St. Louis. We know we have some DC fans tuned into the show. Did you guys feel like that was the game of the year? I felt like it was close. It had potential. Back and forth action. 17-point lead for DC going in the fourth quarter. Still goes to overtime. A full rewind from that game, breaking down what from that game can we take to know what's going to happen and find the edge in San Antonio. And of course, that's going to roll us right into our full XFL title preview. 6.5-point spread for the DC Defenders. That's what they're favored. We're going to each take a side. I'm going to rock with my DC Defenders as I had all year. Sell you on them. Zook's going to talk about why he thinks Arlington can make this a close game. And of course, the mayor, KJ Sales, K9, the heartbeat of the DC defense, the hype man, the mic man, coming up on Springball Series, a great chat with KJ. Everything from his plans this weekend to reflecting on the season. You do not want to miss that Springball Series exclusive. And it wouldn't be the Boulevard without our best bets, right? We mentioned the spread is 6.5, and we got props for you, just like the Super Bowl, right? A lot of you are crazy when it comes to betting props. Well, why wouldn't the XFL Championship get the same love? We're going to make up our own props and give you some overs, unders, all kinds of different stuff. But like I said, I wanted to start off tonight with a deeper look at this Week 9 meeting. This was DC 8-1 hosting Arlington 4-4. What can we take away from this matchup, guys, that maybe we weren't so focused on back in week 9. I always want to watch these games again and get a second opinion on it. This spread closed double digits. It was DC minus 10. Zook, let's go ahead and roll the footage and jump right in. I'm going to try to channel my inner Chris Berman here. Whop! Terrible. Anyway, it was 75 degrees and sunny in DC. Beautiful day in the District of Champions. Matt McCrane was ready to kick us off. Arlington was going to get the ball first. And if you've watched Luis Perez this year, you know the guy can run a damn good play script. They were executing here on the first drive, a mix of pass and run. That's what Arlington wants to do in San Antonio, guys. They want that balanced attack the same way they did against Houston in the South title game. Little dump off there to Letty Brown, running behind his big blocker, going to get a bunch of yards. Great execution. And it didn't help that DC was going to give up a ton of yards and penalties. They had 3 penalties on the first drive. You're going to see each one of them here. A face mask from Swearinger. Then another blatant face mask here. That's 30 yards in penalties. They also jumped off sides. Just almost half the field. Sets Arlington up right on the short porch here. And this is where they've had trouble. They bring in Kelly Bryant for his short yardage package. Stuffed on first down. DC defense really thinking, we can redeem ourselves here. Running the same direction. Stuffed again. On second, they say, okay, we're going to back it out. Play action pass. Francis Bernard putting a hat into the back of the tight end there. So DC redeems themselves. And they hold. And Jonathan Hayes says, what the hell? We're going to go for it on fourth down. Well, the problem is they had a false start. So just complete mismanagement of the situation offensively for Arlington. They settle for a field goal, as they had to that point really all season. So some of their same issues plaguing them. DC getting the ball back, and they made quick work of the Arlington defense here. Jordan Ta'amu on the first play of the drive to Chris Blair. Nice little out route there. Blair getting open as he has on the short pass game all season. They run tempo. Josh Hammond on a little swing pass behind the block. A Lucky Jackson going to get upfield. And again, 3 plays and DC's inside the 10-yard line. That's just been the offense all year, and Hammond's going to finish it off here. Just finding a hole in the zone and scoring 6. So a minute 45 off the clock, and DC's already up 6-3. They're going to go for 2 and miss it here. But still, what a drive to open up the game. 4 for 4 for Ta'amu, 66 yards and a touchdown. And on the next Arlington possession, Smith's going to limp off. So not good news early if you're an Arlington fan. But Perez trying to settle in a little bit here. You had DeJuan Neal blasting in off a corner blitz there. Here's a 3rd and 3. Perez trying to air it out deep, just not finding anybody. Greg Williams pissed off because DC blew a timeout on 4th and 3 unnecessarily. And then somehow coming out of that timeout, they still end up with 12 men on the field. So yet another defensive penalty. The Kelly Bryant package executed perfectly here. Juking Reggie Northrup out of his shoes there. Bryant, former Clemson star. Huge gain there on 3rd and 1. And Arlington just continuing to move the ball here. Here's a 3rd and 10 for Perez. Sacked. And that was huge because it knocked Arlington back 7 yards, where Taylor Russolino ended up with a 44-yard field goal instead of a 36 or 37. Great blitz there, dialed up by Greg Williams. He hooks it left. No points for Arlington there. Next drive for DC, not great. Just out of sync completely. Ta'amu getting passes batted down here. Another incompletion on 3rd down. They go 3 and out. So Arlington holds the lead at 3 here, and Kentrell Bryce was out on the very next possession. So Kelly Bryant going to come in here. They get stuffed on 3rd down. Bob Stoops was not happy about that spot. Chains weren't in line, but they choose not to challenge it. Good stuff there from Malik Fisher. So DC going to get the ball back. They go deep on 2nd and long. Could have been picked off there into double coverage, but Bosman getting flagged, the top corner in Arlington, for a little hand fighting. He gets the DPI there. So Jordan Ta'amu here going to air it out deep to the same side of the field again. And that's Brandon Smith, originally ruled not a catch on the field. Blandino looks at it, says, give the man his catch. Keeping a foot in and picking on Bosby yet again here. And the corners for Arlington just get torched. Lucky Jackson there winning his one-on-one battle with Darren Evans, just basically saying, I'm going to beat you off the line of scrimmage. And Ta'amu putting a perfect ball up there. So DC off and running 12-3 midway through second quarter. A little high there on the 2-pointer. Not like DC to go 0 for 2 on 2-pointers. Arlington got it back. Another 12 men on the field for DC. I don't know what was going on. I mean, why are we having 12 men on the field penalties? Not something characteristic of DC. Smith is back. And on his first carry, he's going to truck everyone. carry student body for 9 yards. Smith just such a factor. Watch for him on Saturday's game. And then on 2nd and 1, take a shot. Why not? Northrup and Ramirez kind of both going to go for the ball here and collide with each other. Caleb Van Der Esch is going to take it into the end zone. Northrup, watch, go for the ball here instead of the tackle. 5 wide for the 2-point try. Perez just out of sorts, not comfortable with the play, tries to check out of it, and that snap just comes way too early for Luis Perez. He was 4 of 4 for 50 yards on that drive, though. So DC pass defense needing to settle in. They bring in De'Aaron King here in 21 personnel, which is going to be Armstead and Puka Williams flanking him. So you know a run's coming. Look at Arlington's defense here, just stacking the box. King going to find a little lane, make 2 guys miss, but man, that's just a product of De'Aaron King's being elusive. And here he is on the roll. Going to roll out, find Josh Hammond. They were going to force him to throw the ball, and I thought he delivered there, made a really good throw. Again, going tempo here. De'Aaron King, been very good on 3rd down all season. Here's another one, complete over the middle to Chris Blair. King was really settling in, and he was finding these short passing lanes. He was running the RPOs well. Looked just as good as Jordan here. Another one, Brandon Smith across the middle. Slants were working out, and then King just going to show off the athleticism. Off his back foot, much like he did against Orlando. Finds Lucky Jackson for the touchdown. That made it 18-9, which is 46 seconds left in the half. They go 5 wide again here, and you're going to notice big difference between Jordan Ta'amu in there for the 2-point conversions where they didn't get 2 of them. Jazz Ferguson there, putting DC up 20-9. Arlington trying to make something happen right before half, and Andre Mintz just says, the hell with that. We're going to rush 4 and beat your 5. So DC takes an 11-point lead into the second half. Short halftimes here in the XFL. What did we take away from that first half? Well, I thought the DC quarterbacks played very well. The red zone game was perfect, as it had been all season. 2 for 2 in the red zone. Lucky Jackson, touchdown from each quarterback. The other wide receivers looking great. Brandon Smith with a nice catch. Jazz Ferguson contributing. Haven't heard his name a lot all season. You had Chris Blair. Josh Hammond having the game of his career up to this point in the first half. So even though Arlington was taking that run game away, I was very confident that the DC pass attack was going to continue rolling into the second half. Defensively, for Greg Williams' unit, just too many miscues, too many penalties. Just they did knock Arlington out of field goal range there at that one point where Russolino hooked that field goal left. So that was good. But outside of that, just too many penalties, keeping Arlington's offense on the field. Missing tackles. Davion Smith was kind of having his way, just trucking guys. And that Kelly Bryant package kind of scared me because it was working. And wasn't too confident that the DC defense was on their game today. So, of course, we had to go into the second half. And DC was going to get the ball. You go ahead and roll that tape, Zook. We'll dive right in to the second half. What adjustments could DC make here? The Beer Snake about halfway up section 137, looking good. Jordan Ta'amu, 7 of 10 that half, 125 yards, and a touchdown. De'Aaron King had one of his own, but I don't know, came out kind of lazy here. Abram Smith gets stuffed. Then on second down, just a little underneath route. Good tackle there by Schooler. And third down, Ta'amu's just going to miss. So a quick 3 and out, less than a minute off the clock for DC here, and they're going to punt. I don't know about that. And from Arlington, Reed here, a tackle for loss, and it's just going to get negated because jumped off sides. And same thing that I talked about in the first half, plaguing DC in the second half. Offsides, and on the very next play, another one. This time they're going to get Ramirez for DPI. He was tasked with covering Sal Cannella all day, and just, that's a tough task. So DPI there, another 20 yards of penalties. Here's Nate Becker. Just a missed tackle from Davin Bellamy there. That should have been a 2 or 3 yard gain. Becker with the hurdle at the end gets 15 out of it. I think Michael Joseph saw that and said, I'm going to set the tone here. I'm going to blow this up. Nobody's getting a screen by Mike Joe. And Bellamy here, DC guys just going for the ball. Look at Smith. Just going to shrug him off here. They will not be able to do that in San Antonio. They got to make those tackles. And Smith just does not go down. Arlington lost the left guard stats there. And out of this timeout was huge for DC because it killed the Arlington momentum. And watch what's going to happen. They're going to bring Arconato in motion. Clearly Swearinger's in man here. Bang. They try the double move, and DJ Swearinger does what he did so many times in his NFL career. He gets the double dip. 2 scoops of ice cream for Swearinger there. And it was that timeout, that injury timeout. Arlington overthought what they were doing there. Arconado going to try a double move. Perez kind of flat-footed, just lays that one out there. And they were going to come to the sideline, and Bob Stoops kind of ripped Arconado, said, you cannot try a double move there. But nonetheless, DC goes up 26-9 with 9:38 in the third quarter. And I thought that was going to be detrimental for Arlington, an offense that just incapable of coming back from down this much. And DC was 1 of 4 on 2-point conversion up to this point as King cannot get to the end zone there. And Perez opens up with almost another one. That was almost to the house. And look at this. 2 in a row. This could have been 2 pick sixes right here. Bernard just cannot. I mean, Perez, you're throwing off your back foot. This was the point in the game where I was like, all right, like they have to every other quarterback this season, DiNucci, McCarron, all of them, they are getting to Perez. Look at him here. Play clock running. 3, 2. It's 3rd and 18, dude. Just take a sack. I mean, you might as well just fall over here. Look at this. But he does get it away. Forces it to the sideline, and he could barely get up from that hit. Arlington ends up punting. And this was the point where Jordan Ta'amu comes back in. He has his long run of the day. The DC offense moving the ball down the field. Look at this. Abram Smith on the sideline. Trucks Bosby there. 3rd and 2. Ta'amu going to spin out of a blitz here. Look downfield, find his receiver. Just things clicking. They were racking up first downs. They're using all kinds of different schemes in the pass game, using the lateral stuff. Here's a little dump out of the backfield to Briley Moore, who's going to get the first down. Just up 17 and driving. I mean, look at this. Abram Smith out of the backfield. I mean, they were just moving the ball, and you're thinking up 17. You're going to have about 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Well, Ryan Moeller says, nope, I'm going to bat it down on second, and on third, I'm going to blast Ta'amu, get in his face, and force a turnover. And because of how weird that play was, Joe Powell has real estate. He could go all the way. But wait. Watch Shakur Brown just sit down here. Can't do that. Blandino says, that's a no-no, Shakur. So it backs the ball out to the 30, negates the pick 6, but they still have it on the plus, 11 here. And Perez on 3rd and 6, just going to blow it dead. Arlington offense, just miscommunications. He was upset there, was Luis Perez. And here's Fadol Brown as DC is going to rush 6 there. He just hits Perez late, a bad penalty. I think the game possibly could have been over there. Might have been a missed hold on Arlington. Monte Nicholson blew out his Achilles there, and more trouble in the DC secondary. There's number 10, Kelly Bryant, back in. This package was working all day. Hands off to Smith. They're going to score. I just felt like the game could have been iced there. They did not need to do that roughing the passer. And on the 2-point attempt, Arlington getting a little cute. I don't know what you're trying here with Javonte Payton on the reverse. That was a 2 points you needed badly because it would have made it a 1-possession game. So we're going to bring De'Aaron King back in here. Arlington obviously going to load the box against the run, and it's going to work. He wasn't finding any lanes. I mean, look at this. And on 3rd down, you have to pass. He's just going to throw this one up for grabs. And unbelievably, I mean, this is a sure pick. Unbelievably, Trevon LeBlanc holds here on defense, just bails out De'Aaron King. And they rolled with him. They did not bring Jordan back in. They hand it off to Smith. He breaks off for 16, finally breaking through for his long run of the day. DC at this point got very conservative, and I think Smith was like, they're feeding him so much, he's just getting blasted. He had a 16 there. He's like, use me in the pass game a little bit. They find him on the check down here. De'Aaron King just missed their 3rd down, just racking up 3rd down conversion. But they were just kind of overusing Smith, and he fumbles here. Thankfully, Ty Clary there to jump on it because that would have been trouble. But Smith comes out. Armstead's going to come in to pace him. And I just thought DC got way too conservative, just trying to run the clock out. It seemed like they were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. But King Magic on 3rd and 17 finds Josh Hammond, who sidesteps a defender and gets the first down. I mean, wow, that should have put it on ice. Trevon LeBlanc really struggling. He was getting ripped by Bob Stoops on the sideline. And understandably so. You cannot let that happen on 3rd and 17. Obviously, 6.5 minutes left here. And De'Aaron King who cares what you do on first and second down, right? If you're king, just get to third down because that's what you've been able to do. Right? Well, not this time. That luck was going to run out eventually. Great job there by Clark and Sankey, who both got in his face, and that ball was tipped for sure. It ricocheted into Schooler's hands. Very weird drive there for DC. And this is when Luis Perez really turned it on. DC was kind of giving up the underneath routes. Perez said, screw it, we're running 2-minute here. Rolling super fast. Arlington did not want to call a timeout. And Luis Perez just field general here. Look at this. Sets up the screen to Javante Payton. Perfectly executed. The O-lineman 20 yards downfield there. Kind of fun to watch for Perez. Well, not if you're a DC. Tyler Vaughn's there with a big gain. And man, at this point, look at Perez directing traffic. Remember, this was only his second start for Arlington. Why does he know where guys are supposed to be and they don't? Another missed tackle for the DC defense, and that one was huge. Even though they stopped Letty Brown at the 1 there, those are, 11 yards that DC did not need to give up. And on 4th and goal, Arlington surprisingly tries to pass it. And another defensive penalty, this time with 1 minute and 22 seconds left. That had to be like 8 or 9 defensive penalties at that point. They're going to get Mike Joe on the DPI. I was surprised that Arlington called that play, and man, interference. Mike Joe was not happy about it. Davion Smith going to cap it off with a 1-yard plunge here. Now all of a sudden it's a 26-21 game. So DC's not even covering the original spread anymore at this point. Everyone's thinking, what the hell's going on? This time Arlington in 5 wide, as all the teams have done on their 2-point tries, finds Tyler Vaughn's. Frustrated Mike Joe getting picked on back there. Not like that DC defense. So obviously 4th and 15 here, right? They're going to go for it down 3 with 1 minute 20 left. Perez playing his best football of the season at this point. And here he's going to make the play of the year. One hand tied behind his back, throws it up Johnny football style, and finds Sal Cannella, who was just getting open. Ramirez was having a lot of trouble. DC rushed 6 on this play, and they almost got home. This is typical Greg Williams, right? He's going to make Perez step up in the pocket, and he did. But wow, incompletion here. Perez just urging, trying to move down the field. They still had those 2 timeouts in their pocket from good clock management. Ramirez there, step for step with Cannella, kind of redeeming himself. But here on 4th and 4, this was a tricky one because Andre Mintz gets to the blind side of Perez and hits him. It's incomplete. You think the ball game's over, and people are going to leave the stadium. Well, here's the problem. Bob Stoops still had a challenge because he didn't blow it on the spot. And he's like, we're going to challenge it here because what do we have to lose? We still have it. Well, it turns out there actually was a penalty on this play. Santos Ramirez got away with a hold on the field at the bottom left of your screen there on Sal Cannella. Cannella waving his arm saying, I'm being held. So he gets away with it on the field, and Greg Williams is halfway to the shower. Reggie Barlow's like, yo, defense up. Somebody call Greg. Greg, get back here, man. Where are you at? We got to play defense again. Again, half the stadium probably in the Audi Field parking lot by now, but that's like the 10th penalty for the DC defense of the afternoon. What a great play by Letty Brown here to get 10 yards there. And here's where I think Perez lost the game. He came over to Chuck Long and he said, I don't want to throw this. Hayes and Long were trying to call a pass, saying if it's open, take it. If it's not, just throw it away. Perez elects to run. I don't think he wanted to let go of the ball there, playing conservative for the tie, not the win. With DC defense off balance and Greg Williams barely on the sideline, I think Arlington could have played for the win there. But instead, they liked their chances in overtime. There's that Ramirez-Cannella matchup again. We go back to Jordan Ta'amu. He's going to miss here. I mean, just throwing it into traffic, getting knocked down, so neither team gets their first try. On the second try, here for Arlington, Perez rushed again. Just going to float it up for Cannella. Ramirez knocks it down, one of the big plays for the DC defense. And then Josh Hammond. What an afternoon for Josh. Just getting open on the out route here. Good job in protection from the O-line. That made it 28-26, so it was do or die here for the Renegades. Watch Davin Bellamy. Just going to drop into coverage and get the bear paw up there. He would rush the passer pretty much every single play. So that was something that they definitely didn't see coming. Davin Bellamy credited there with the PBU. And Perez was just looking for that slant to Van Der Esch. What are the main things that we can take away from that matchup? Well, we know each team had played 2 games since then, and I don't think blowing a 17-point fourth quarter lead will be an issue in San Antonio like it was for DC the first time around. Go ahead and roll that graphic, Zook. I want to take a look here at some of the things that DC did really well. The receivers and tight ends for me in week 9 against Arlington graded out at an A+. Lucky Jackson caught a touchdown from each quarterback. You saw Josh Hammond just was a highlight reel making play after play. That big 3rd and 17 was huge. That should have ended the game. Josh Hammond gets open in overtime on the out route. Brandon Smith made an insane catch. You see Chris Blair here. He did his thing. And with all that said, the receivers and tight ends blocking for each other was probably more important than even the catches that they made. Ethan Wolf, Briley Moore getting in there on the block game. So the reason I think this is trouble for Arlington is they had played well against every other wide receiver core in the league. You know, they generate takeaways. They did get 2 key picks in the second half of that game in week 9, but overall, I'm not sure they did such a great job in coverage. Devontae Bosby is their top corner. He had that rough DPI and kind of struggled at times. When Arlington lost Josh Hawkins early in the year, Shakur Brown, Crevon LeBlanc, and Darren Evans all had to step up for him, and they had a below-average game against this wide receiver core. So, to me, it's like LeBlanc was on the sideline just getting ripped. He gave up a 3rd and 17 late. Evans just got blown by Lucky Jackson there on his touchdown. It seemed like a mismatch, and the safeties have been solid between Joe Powell and Will Hill. But from a depth perspective, the team that once was the number 1 pass defense in the league in the Arlington Renegades, the team with 14 interceptions, I believe, this season, they just lost their second best corner because Shakur Brown moved to the IR just this week with a lower leg injury. So now you're without Hawkins and you're without Brown. So opposite Bosby, you're going to have a rotation of Evans, LeBlanc, possibly some other guys filling in there as well. But I think it's just a mismatch, and it's not going to necessarily have to be Abram Smith all day on the ground to beat Arlington. I think you can win this game and cover by throwing the ball. Remember what the Renegades did in week 9. That defensive line was ferocious. Second rush defense in the land behind only DC. So offensively, watch out for these 3. Jackson, Hammond, and Blair. The 3 tight ends as well. These guys are going to be open. It's just a matter of Jordan Tamu and De'Aaron King getting them the ball. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the ball for DC. What are the things that they did wrong to allow that 17-point fourth quarter comeback? Well, some of you would make a case that a lot of that had to do with the offense turning the ball over, those 2 second-half picks, right? Well, I don't blame that as much as I blame the boneheaded penalties. Double digits, 10 of them from the DC defense. It started on the first drive. They had that offsides and 2 face masks. That's 40 yards of penalties. Luckily, to start, they redeemed themselves with a goal line stand. But they just got plagued by penalties the rest of the way. They had 2 12 men on the fields, one after a timeout. That's just inexcusable. Had a couple of DPIs and holds that maybe could have gone either way. That unnecessary roughing the passer, that probably would have ended the game if that wasn't a penalty. And then obviously the challenge that Bob Stoops won at the end with Ramirez and the hold. So you got to clean that up. I mean, Perez was playing phenomenal, so you didn't have any leeway. And this is going to be Luis Perez's 4th time facing DC. You thought the first 3 times were miserable for him, and he didn't feel going 0-3 and felt how it was to just keep losing to the same team? 4th try for Perez between Vegas and Arlington. Now, let's forget about the negative for a second. Let's go to some of the positives. Obviously, you see on the graphic, if you're listening on podcast, DC was 72% in third down defense. That's very good. They had 8 hurries, obviously with a Greg Williams defense, rushing 5, rushing 6 a lot. They even brought 7 one time, but that defense was on the field for 56% of the game. I think that was a little too much. Offense likes to strike quick here in DC, but, don't get conservative, but maybe go for longer, sustained drives to get that defense a break. So some of the other positives for DC was the 4-man rush. Obviously looked very good. Andre Mintz got home on a 4-on-5. DeJuan Neal blew a play up from his corner spot. I think Luis Perez is going to struggle to get the ball out fast enough to beat this blitz. So the key for the DC defense, you've got to hold the Arlington offense to this 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12. Once they get there, the blitz is coming. And to beat cover 0, Luis Perez is going to have to get that ball out fast. He does have that pocket awareness, but if DC is constantly throwing you 6-on-5, maybe you get a running back in there to block the pass, but that's going to be tough. You don't really want to have Smith and Letty Brown back there constantly taking on Francis Bernard and Reggie Northrup and these deep backs. This 4-2-5 that Greg Williams runs is awesome. They really only have 2 linebackers on the field at once. They use 5 DBs most of the time. And with the secondary a little banged up, this front 6, I guess you could say, needs to get home because Peyton, Tyler Vaughns, and Lawan Winningham is underrated in the receiving corps for Arlington, and they will make plays if you give them space. They're all pretty solid route runners. Speaking of Lawan Winningham, since we brought him up, I did want to quickly mention, thank you to Lawan. We had an interview with Lawan this week. He talked about everything from his journey from Central Arkansas, having to sit out his first year, bursting onto the scene, playing against Western Kentucky in his first game in college, and having 8 catches for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns in an FBS upset. He told us about being from Houston and what it was like to not only force 2 fumbles in that first Houston game that he played, but to also go back and knock them off in the South Division Championship game in front of his friends and family. So Lawan Winningham, playing with a chip on his shoulder, he was wondering why he didn't get drafted by Houston. You'd like to get taken by the hometown team. The reason I say all this is because we had some technical difficulties in the interview, and unfortunately we lost the footage with Lawan. So I wanted to thank him. We hope to catch up with him again in the XFL press conference tomorrow, coming up for Media Day. He was a great interview, and I encourage you all to Google his highlights and look at some of the catches that he made this year. Thank you, Matt, Mylon, and Arlington as well for setting that up for us, but wanted to thank Lawan. Now, the interview we did get is my guy, KJ Sales, the heartbeat of that DC defense. He's just been phenomenal, firing everybody up, motivating those around him, being a positive influence on and off the field. So on Springball Series, we have KJ Sales. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back, and Zook will tell you why he thinks Arlington will cover on Springball Boulevard. From Tampa, Florida to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to LA, and now a member of the richest team in the XFL, the DC Defenders, where he's the heartbeat, the vocal leader of the squad, defensive back KJ Sales. Welcome to Springball Boulevard, man.
What it do, my boy? How you doing?
Hey, been wanting to have you on all year. I listened to the Free Bands podcast. I had to have you on the show. You're a natural on air, man, for sure.
For sure. I appreciate you for having me, man.
So right off the top, number one, how's the ankle feeling? And tell us a little bit about your big plans this weekend.
Man, ankle's feeling great. Got a lot of big plans going into this weekend. We ain't gonna really speak on too much of that because we just want to let our play do the talking. So, but ankle's feeling good, man. I'm feeling healthy. I'm back good, and we ready to go.
Cannot wait to watch that in San Antonio. How different or unique would you say your XFL experience has been being drafted by DC versus maybe another team who didn't make the playoffs or didn't have the success that you guys had this year?
I think it's extremely different because it shows the how our room is just as a whole. Like I said, I always say on every interview that I go into, it starts with Reggie Barlow. Reggie Barlow being an underdog, feeling like he's an underdog, and I feel like he got nothing but underdogs. And some people will say we have a whole bunch of no-name guys on this team, but I beg to defer, man. Like we really showing up, and we're showing up every week. And so us winning free bands every week, getting a win every week. I mean, it's the free band game. What more can you ask for? You know what I mean? And this is what we asked for. We asked to be in this moment. We asked to be here. So it's not a coincidence that we're in the championship now. So, it is what it is. We're going to do what it do.
Yeah, and that whole underdog mentality, like that's so true. That's not just like guys that are coming together like thinking they're underdogs. It truthfully is. Like before the season,
Yeah.
it was 7-1 odds for DC to win the
Right.
championship. That was like 7th or 8th in the league. So even the sports books out in Vegas didn't believe you guys had a good roster. So it's been awesome
Right.
to come together. Talking a little bit about that North Championship game, I think the game plan for Seattle coming in, they were going to spread it out 5 wide, and they really truthfully thought they were going to throw it all over you guys and that you weren't going to stop the pass. You kept
Right.
them in check all day. You had everybody injured. Feel like you were hurt. Mike Joseph came out. DeJuan, Kentrell were banged up. There were all kind of injuries. And if you take out that garbage time touchdown at the end, they only scored 15 points.
Yeah.
So what was that like to go out there and just play probably the best game of the season in the secondary?
I'm gonna say this first of all, because I feel like we've been disrespected the whole year. And their head coach saying that they lost us twice by 1 point, this, that, and the third. We just got them up out of there. So what they gonna say now? You know what I mean? We've been doing it all year, and we've been holding our own all year, man. And it's like I said, it's underdog mentality. You the dog or you not. We got a whole bunch of dogs on this team, from the D line to the linebackers to the DBs, wide receivers, O line. It starts up front. When those guys get going, it ain't no stopping us. You know what I mean? So we've been playing tremendous all year, man. Not underestimating anybody, just going out there playing our style of ball. And that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, and Seattle talked a lot about the drops, but it's like you drop the ball because you don't want to get hit by these guys, right? I don't want to get hit.
They talked about the drops, but you got to make that play. You're not in the championship game because you dropped the ball. That don't have nothing to do with us. You know what I'm saying? So it's either you win or you not. And we won. That's what it is. There's nothing else to be said. Free band game.
Absolutely, man. And your coaching staff is legendary. You talk about Reggie Barlow, but how about a guy like Jamie Sharper, Super Bowl champ? I mean, on one of the best defenses ever. Then you got Coach Dean. Yeah, like he was an NFL star in the 80s. There's just legends all over this staff. What has it been like playing for these guys?
I'm gonna speak on Coach Greg first, man. Everybody think Greg is crazy. Now he a little throwed off, but we all a little throwed off on this defense. You got to be a little throwed off to play on this defense, man. Because if you're not making any plays. You know what I mean? But Greg is, I've learned so much from him that I've learned my whole career, man. From Greg alone, I've learned a lot of ball from him. I've learned concepts. I've learned, like what he thinks, and he's one of the best defensive coordinators, that I've ever had the chance to play for. And it shows why he was in the league for a long, long time. I playing for him, you got to be 100% practice every day. And that's part of the reason why we are where we are, because of discipline. You got to be a disciplined guy playing for Greg Williams. Coach Dean, man, talking about Coach Dean, man, he's really a laid back DB coach, one of the most laid back DB coaches that I've had the chance to play for, because he's played the position and he understands. You know what I mean? Well, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. If this happened to you, I'm not going to keep telling you that, oh, man, you got to do this, you got to do that. You know what I mean? He's kind of laid back, chill. And Coach Sharper the same way. These guys played the game. They played the game. They coached the game, so they kind of understand what it is.
Yeah, it's been great all the way from your DPP Von Hutchins all the way up to Coach Barlow. I know we talked about in our interview with Coach Barlow how back in 1999, Greg Williams was a defensive coordinator for the Titans, and Reggie Barlow was a kick returner, which you are for the Jaguars. And they played like he had to scheme against Reggie. It's so cool to see all these different guys from different backgrounds come together. And then you look at the roster, and it's just been all players from across the country. Obviously, you being from Florida, players being from coast to coast. So it's been really cool to see. Let's scout Arlington a little bit. What do you think you guys can do better than week 9, where they kind of came back a little bit in the fourth quarter and gave a little scare? What can you do better this time around?
Oh, we got to tackle, man. I think they do a good job of eye candy things. Their offensive coordinator is a great offensive coordinator, playing with your eyes. You know what I mean? And I think that they have some good receivers, man. And we got a real test this week to test our abilities. So I think that they have a good run game, of course, to get going. Once their run game gets going, then everything else opens up. They're kind of like our offense in a sense. Once their run game gets open, then their pass games opens up. So we really gotta, be sound in our gaps. You know what I mean? Sound in the back end, communicating. And it's really all about communication for us in the back end. And I think we'll be all right.
One of the deepest secondaries in the league. Like you said, you guys not getting enough respect from a statistical standpoint, playing in a division, right, where everybody's running this kind of offense. Yeah. Everybody is trying to come out in 5 wide and throw it on you guys. Oh, yeah. Not many teams try to run on the DC defenders. So it's really been on you guys all season.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I'm going to just say this too. I don't know who voted, as far as the XFL team and all that down in the third. But we had some linebackers that should have been on there. I feel like Michael Joseph should have definitely won Defensive Player of the Year. In my own personal opinion, we had a lot of guys that should have been up for that. In my own personal opinion, but shout out to the guys that were on there. Shout out to the guys that we did have that won. Shout out to Tamu, man. But we got a lot of guys here, man, that could play, and we're gonna show up. We're gonna show up Saturday for sure. You're gonna see.
Yeah, you talk about a guy like Francis Bernard, right? He gets suspended for 2 games. I thought that was crazy. And he missed 2 games of this opportunity. 8 games played, still almost leads the league in TFLs and solo tackles.
Yeah, for real.
So it goes to show, it goes to show the fire you guys play with. And I always thought watching this team, it just seems like other teams that are coming in, you guys get in their head a little bit. Yeah. And it just seems like, remember that Seattle game, all the penalties that they were committing over and over and over again, just the mental mistakes. Back to the Houston game on Monday night, they start snowballing and all these penalties started happening. And it just seems like you guys have a way, man, and Reggie and all these guys to just get in their head and they start second guessing themselves. So it'll be interesting to see if Arlington can keep their composure. It's going to be tough playing against a really good squad.
Yeah, I think they will. They got a good coach and a good squad, man. So we're going to be the ones that really have to, be on our game when we play them, man. I think they got a good team and a good squad, so we got to come ready to play.
Well, KJ, you always talk about meeting the Rock. I'm hearing he's going to be there in San Antonio Saturday night. It's XFL title game now, baby.
Oh, man, listen. That's a dream of mine, man. The guys mess with me about that. The dream of mine is to meet the Rock, man. Hopefully, I get a little tryout with the WWE, get my body right a little bit after the season and get this thing rolling, man. But, I'm trying to get something going pregame, so we'll see what we can whip up for sure.
We will see you in San Antonio, and whether it's the Royal Rumble that you end up in someday or in office as the mayor of Tampa, we're always rooting for you, KJ Sales. Cannot wait to watch this game, and we'll catch up with you in San Antonio, man. Thanks for joining Springball Boulevard.
I appreciate you, man.
Zook, if I could just be an honorary member of the Free Band Gang for one day, that's all I ask. KJ Sales, bringing the energy, as always, has aspirations and dreams of meeting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What a partnership that could be. Imagine KJ Sales in the WWE, some of the stuff he'd be able to do in the Royal Rumble on the ropes. Always rooting for KJ. Like we said, whether he's the mayor of Tampa or plays in the XFL, the NFL, wherever. Love to have KJ on as a co-host sometimes. Look, we might have to get 2 people on this set someday. So that was KJ Sales. Zook, it's going to be your turn here to play devil's advocate on all the DC stuff that I just spewed. I'm sure you've been sitting here thinking, man, if I have to hear another word about the DC Defenders, I'm just going to call it a show. So thank you for leaving me on and giving me this platform. But now it's your turn, sir. The floor is yours. Why will the Arlington Renegades cover? I don't know if you're going to go as far as saying they'll win the XFL championship. Why will they cover the 6.5 point spread?
All right. So Arlington needs to keep that same game plan they had against Houston. They need to have balance.
Got it.
You know what I mean? 27 pass attempts, 30 rush attempts. They had the balance. They need to control that ball, control the possession. They have to keep that DC offense off the field. They're too strong.
Quick strike.
Every time they get on the field, they can score. So they have to have that balance. They gotta control that possession. That's huge. That's almost everything. Now, their offense did a lot of good things. And like I'm saying, Smith, 24 carries, 94 yards. that 24-yarder in the first quarter was huge against Houston. Again, all these stats are against Houston. I chose to highlight that just because.
Best game of the season for them, had to be.
Absolutely. And you got to remember, Perez is just getting into his own. And you can't really judge him on the whole season. A lot of things have changed.
Fourth start against DC, though. What's that going to be?
I think that's good for him, though.
Great for him,
because
right?
he's seen so much.
Yep.
Peyton, 5 for 121, 2
Came out of
TDs.
nowhere, Javonte Payton.
2 TDs. That's huge. And you're looking at Perez. I mean, he did everything he could. The biggest stat on that line right there is no interceptions.
Yep.
He's going to have to make sure that he minimizes those mistakes, if not have none. Right. But I think they can do that. You have to credit the offensive line. The second big stat on this board is 1 sack.
Houston, too, who led the league.
Right. 35 sacks they had, right? So that's huge. O-line, big props. But also Perez is getting the ball out on time and quick. So those are huge stats to me. I think they can do it, man. I really do. They can cover. I'm not going to say they're going to win right here, but they can definitely cover. They have a lot of upside right now.
They were 6.5-point dogs to open against Houston. That line went to almost 9 by kickoff.
Right.
That's just wrong.
And I'm sitting there. I had a little bit of coin on that one.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and we talked about it before.
Houston has the best.
I'm saying, oh my, I'm in big trouble.
It's 11-0 right off the bat, 12-0, something like that. They scored 2 touchdowns right away.
So a couple things about that, and you already broke this down. Tons of penalties by DC. And Arlington didn't capitalize on a couple opportunities. They have a missed field goal at 44 that should have been earlier, or it should have been shorter.
36, yeah.
Should have been at 36. They don't cash in on the 1-yard line. There's things that they have to clean up too. And they can't expect DC to be handing over those penalties all game. So, but I think, kind of getting back to what you were saying, Perez, seeing him 4 times is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge.
Let me ask you this, Zook. Do you feel like overall Arlington played a better game Week 9 against DC? Forget the final scores and the results for a second. They play a more complete game against DC Week 9 or in the XFL South Division title against Houston, considering the opponent as well. DC is a step up from the Houston Roughnecks.
So that's a hard question to answer for a couple reasons. So Houston's offense reeling, right? You're not seeing the same game out of them that you normally would. And they were reeling for 5 weeks. DC defense also reeling, getting gashed in the passing game.
But I still think that Seattle game for them was a statement made, kind of like KJ was saying.
It's not a statement. And it's not because I'm a DC hater. I am. But it's not because of that. The difference is that what I'm talking about when I broke down the offense. Balance, right? That's all I'm saying. Well, it's easy for DC to sit back and play the pass because Seattle's not running the ball. So that balance is key, and Arlington can do it. And they've proven week over week that they will have the balance. And that's something that doesn't really pick up on the stat sheet, but they do. They've had balance all year. They've committed. They've been basically 50-50. So the times where they've thrown more is because they're down, and in the second half they got to.
I think the big thing for Perez will be the consistency. Obviously, you saw lulls in that Week 9 DC game. He comes out, he throws the pick 6. Next drive, he almost throws 2 more. He's off his back foot, just kind of lobbing a loaf of bread. And then he takes that hit on 3rd and 18. And he could barely peel himself up off the turf. He was in a lot of pain. So when he got the ball back with 5 minutes left, it's like a switch flick. Like everything changed. He went tunnel vision. And it reminded me of when you get the fire in NFL Blitz and your guy is just absolutely cooking. Like, he could not be stopped. And I don't know how they lost because he almost couldn't be denied a win. I think the one thing that Perez did wrong was he came over to the sideline and he said, I don't want to throw it.
Right.
I think he had confidence in himself. But what was it there that was holding Luis Perez back from saying, we're just going to take a shot to the end zone?
It's tough because you could look at it a couple different ways. Like you said, they're trying not to lose instead of to win, which is a big mistake.
Trying to play for OT. Yeah.
But if you have confidence in yourself to win it in OT.
But how can you? And DC's as good as they are in the red zone. If Perez's logic was, I'm not throwing the ball because I'm going to get picked off. Or we're going to have something stupid happen like we did when Arconato tried to run a double move and it was a pick six.
Right.
If he's playing that safe, to me it's like, DC is so good in the red zone. How can you rely on your defense when you line DC up at the 5 where they just score to stop them?
And that's the tough part because at that point you can't say, well, I'm not going to throw the ball. If you're that worried about it, drop back, look for your route. You only have to go through 2 progressions.
That was the plan.
Go through 2 progressions and throw the ball away.
You could tell by him scrambling there.
Him getting 8 yards on the scramble is that what it was? 8 yards.
It's Russolino a little closer, but again,
doesn't
this
really
guy's
do
hit
much
from 56. Right. I know he missed the 44. That was uncharacteristic of him.
Sure.
And ultimately would have won them the game. If you really think about it. There was many points in this game. If they punch it in on the first drive, they probably win the game. Right? If they make that field goal, they probably win the game.
See, that's tough though. You can't say that because
game flow. Yeah.
The score changes decision making by offensive coordinators. There's just so many things that can change because of that. So it's easy to say, well, that play lost them the game. Well, that's not necessarily true.
The Peyton reverse was weird. I don't know why you do that on the 2-point try. You have a chance there to make it a 9-point game instead of a 12. Why are you running a end around?
A lot of goofy stuff. Yeah. One thing I do want to say about Perez is week over week, I'm a pool player, right? And I play it at a decent clip, right? One thing that I know is that once I gain confidence, look out.
Yeah.
Look out.
We'll have to see if we get you in Texas to a pool hall. Now Zook just kind of revealed himself here. You know,
anyways,
maybe hustled a few people down there in Texas, but now you're outed. So
it's fine. Doubtful. I'll play him straight up.
It's Texas, baby. But kind of circle back around. You're talking a lot about the offense. I want to hear something from you about defensively. Arlington, we've been one of the top units in the league all year. What do we know about them and how they can maybe slow down this DC offense?
All right. So first, we're going to run some B-roll.
Do it. If you don't know what B-roll is, it's highlights. That's pretty much it.
It's highlights. Look at these guys. Leading the league in turnovers. 13 picks, 10 forced fumbles. They got 9 of them. They did have 2 interceptions against DC, 1 against each quarterback. So you never know. It's kind of weird that they put King in and he kept on throwing a ball. I don't know what they were trying to do there. Were they just trying to get him reps? Who knows? One thing to really look out for, though, is Lambert. He made the all XFL team. He doesn't have any stats that jump off the page at all. I tried to look for him. Can't find him. He really didn't. But he was nominated.
But deadly, yeah.
Huge honor, right? Huge honor?
Oh, the defensive linemen in this league are phenomenal. Yeah.
Right. So he gets there, and why?
The stuff that's not in the stat box.
There's a big reason. He's filling holes. Yeah. He's not necessarily making all the tackles, but he's doing what he has to do.
Wrecking havoc.
So
they got some other guys on the D line too, man. TJ Barnes, about 340 pounds.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to deal with him. You got Laile, who made the pick 6 there in the Vegas game, and then they have just some great guys up front.
And it's crazy because
Coatney is another one.
It's crazy to me. The entire defense, there's not really any big-time names on it. And same thing, looking for stats, can't really find them. But the thing that they do well is they play as a unit. Right. They keep things in front of them. They make solid tackles. There's plenty of things that they do. One thing that I want to see them do is the D-line's got to get there and force that pressure. Linebackers got to drop because DC's doing quick hitters. They're doing slants. They're doing crossing routes.
Yeah.
All those kind of things where they're letting their playmakers catch the ball and try to do something. And those guys are. They've been doing it all year. So they kind of have to watch. They got to get the pressure with the D-line and let those linebackers drop and maybe sit on a couple routes. But
yeah, Donald Payne, another one. He's coming back. Obviously, we didn't think he would be back. He was moved to the IR in the midseason. Filling in, Colin Schooler, Willie Harvey. There's some really good, Clark and Willie Taylor. Some of these really good linebackers. And Zook's right. They may not be a huge name on that side of the ball, but they do have some dogs on defense. And they're led by Jay Hayes and Tim Lewis, a very experienced coaching staff, co-defensive coordinators. Lewis focusing more on the back half of the defense and Hayes more on the front seven. But, man, this defense is for real. And I think that in the first half, they just weren't ready for DC. Will they be coming out this time? Who will get the ball first, I think will determine a lot.
Yeah.
If Arlington gets the ball first, I think Perez is better than anybody with a play script. He's just been phenomenal executing that. But DC gets the ball first and goes down and scores, and it's 6-0 right off the bat. Arlington is not a team that is built to have another 17-point fourth quarter comeback.
No,
you can write that off. DC will not give up what they did.
Yeah, shootout's not happening. And that's why I was talking about ball, possession of the ball. They have to control that. Something that I didn't really mention is that I think that Stoops is really going to be a little more aggressive when it comes to them in-betweeners. Field goal, he knows. Field goals aren't going to win him the game.
Settled for him all year, and they weren't good.
And they actually weren't that bad against DC in that department in Week 9.
Yeah.
They did score 4 touchdowns.
Right. Yeah, I thought there was just a complete effort out of Arlington Week 9. When I watched that game, you could tell it was a different team, and it didn't carry over to the Week 10 game against Houston, seemingly because Arlington had already locked off a playoff spot. But it did in the South Division Championship.
So let me throw you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's an advantage of Stoops having 2 weeks over a rookie head coach of Barlow, even though he's coach of the year?
It's a tough question. I think that there's been a built-in advantage all year for the Arlington Renegades. Bob Stoops having that corner office overlooking Choctaw Stadium. You might as well be the guy, right? You're in the XFL hub. Your team has the hub facilities. DC, practicing in a high school stadium.
I get it, but see, this is something that I will argue. I know you highlighted earlier how Arlington didn't win their home games. Well, they're home games for everybody.
Right.
Just because they're okay, so DC's fans aren't in Texas. It's a home game for everybody. Right. They're not traveling. So it's hard to dog Arlington for losing those games when they're not really that big of an advantage.
Yeah, more of what I would say there is that kind of balances out, right? Because when you're getting a team, it's basically a home game for your opponent. However, they had to travel 4 or 5 less times than everybody else this season.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yes, is the answer to your question. I think having 2 weeks here does benefit Arlington, right? Because they are kind of used to the hub and used to the situation around them. Obviously, teams are traveling out tomorrow to leave for San Antonio on the buses. I believe it's probably a 2-hour bus ride, 3-hour bus ride south in Texas. But yeah, I think Bob Stoops, right? National champion with Oklahoma.
Right.
Coached for probably 18, 19 years there. We knew coming into the season when I picked Arlington out of the South, it was because they had a great roster on paper, but the coaching staff was one of the most experienced from top to bottom. You have Jonathan Heimbach, the offensive line coach, who played in XFL 2001. He was actually a champion with the Los Angeles Extreme. He played center there. So, yeah, right, rookie head coach, but that's still the coach of the year. So put some respect on Reggie's name.
I wasn't disrespecting though. That's what I'm getting. I'm just asking if there's an
DC
edge.
Hater.
I am, but is there an edge? That's all I'm looking for. I want to know.
I think Greg Williams and Fred Keiss experience balance that out.
Right, and that's the answer I
guys profiting
expected
off,
out of
yeah.
you instead of you rambling on for a while. Whatever.
I mean, what would we be here on the boulevard without me rambling on? Speaking of this, you're going to love this now that you're done spewing your Arlington propaganda. At the beginning of the season, Zook, what did I do? Before we even kicked off XFL 3.0, I looked at the odds board and I said, my DC Defenders, see the jersey, have a mirror image. I was a fan of them in 2020. They never lost a home game. Coming back to Audi Field, undefeated this year, I liked my odds. And I got this at plus 650. So if you're not familiar, I took the DC Defenders to win the XFL championship on February 12th. That was 6 days before the season kicked off. I got them at plus 650. At the time, I believe it was the 7th of 8th worst odds on the board as far as teams in order. The Battlehawks were the betting favorite. Arlington was up there. Seattle was up there as well. I think DC at one point was 7-1, and I looked back and I was like, plus 650. So I took it.
I'm pretty sure I jumped in on Seattle at plus 350.
Yeah, they were up
somewhere
there. So 1.5 unit wager is 48 hours away from winning me 9.75 units. Now, the sports book, not to be named, has offered me a Howie Mandel banker deal or no deal type of proposition here. They're saying, take the check, Matty Fresh. We don't need your action on Saturday. Here's a check for 6 units. Go have fun in San Antonio. You know what I say? We have the box we can close. No deal, banker. I'm taking my 9.75 units when the DC Defenders win and cover. And in fact, I doubled down on them at a spread to be named when we get to the best bets before I get out of order here on Zook. But XFL title, 1 game away from a future cashing. And like I said at the beginning of the show, it feels good for once in my life to be right. Why is this the only league I can be right on? Back in 2020, I was half decent. Didn't have a good run with college football. NFL was rough. I was rough on some college hoops this year, but it just seems like I found my perfect marriage with the XFL. And how badly would this have gone for me if DC had like an Orlando type season? And I'm here every week just suffering.
I would have loved to see it.
Well, you know why, Zook? I didn't suffer? Because I knew. From the day Reggie Barlow and Von Hutchins and all these guys came in, that this was going to be a first-class organization. And I even said when they went to San Antonio last month, I said, we're 1 month away. This is a walkthrough in the Alamodome. And laughed at me. So it's time for Matty Fresh to get his flowers. Yeah, I pat myself on the back a lot. But come on, if you're a DC fan watching this show, you got to love it. If you're a fan of another team, better luck next year.
Sure.
We'll be back for season 2 of the Boulevard. Zook is ready to end the show.
I'm not ready. What's hysterical to me is you're like, before I skip ahead and get ahead of myself, you already skipped a segment. So we're not going to bring on the graphics. But who are you picking straight up?
Oh, it
No.
would be nice if we had a graphic picking our games.
We do have it. Here it is. Hold on.
Well, Zook is picking DC.
Straight up.
Zook, you and I have been at each other all year. I just want to say thank you for finally recognizing greatness.
Oh, my.
Zook,
Jesus.
the DC logo above him. You picked them at other points this year. I'll give you that, right? But to pick them in this spot means a lot. Because I know if this was Houston, you would not. You would have picked the Roughnecks. So Zook and I both go in DC. Sorry, I figured our picks were obvious, but it is nice to see that.
Right.
Official.
Game score.
Shoot. You're going to do this to me?
Yeah. All right. So I'll let
What's
you
the
think.
total? 46.5?
48. So I'll give you mine while you think. 35-23 DC.
What happened to this not being a shootout? 35-20.
I'm saying that Arlington can't get into a shootout and expect to win. I still think it's going to be a shootout. Not to foreshadow, but there's a reason why I picked that
35-23. So
35-23.
That'd be a cover.
Yeah.
So Zook was playing the fiddle for Arlington pretty hard there.
Listen, that
23 points.
That was my job, right?
Yeah. That'd be a high-scoring game. Man, I hate this. What do you had? You had a 12-point win.
Let's go.
Yeah, I know. I sorry. 29-15. Defense will step up like they did against Seattle. Remember,
that's a larger win than what I picked.
It is, but it's not 35 points. I mean, it's close, but I think you're underestimating this defense. I think that what they did against Seattle was, I get it. DiNucci had almost 300 passing. But until garbage time, when he threw that touchdown to Green, they only had 15 points. And that's the number one offense in the league.
I understand that, and I just argued this.
I think Arlington's scoring 23.
Yeah, I do, because they have balance.
Better score on defense.
Balance. Your DBs and your linebackers can't just lay back and wait to see where he throws the ball. Balance.
I hope Greg Williams listens.
And I said this. Really, why did Seattle pick up Philip Lindsay if we weren't going to use him? That's all there is to it.
Haslett said it himself. Wishes he would have used him more. Davion Smith, as we highlighted, can truck guys. Expect a heavy dose of him. And while we're talking about players getting a heavy dose, why don't we go into some championship props? I know a lot of you like your Super Bowl props. Some of you play national anthem over under. I've seen halftime show. Who is the halftime show?
I have no clue.
Is it me?
Is it us? I was gonna say. I will be on the sideline.
Maybe y'all haven't heard my new DC Defender song. By the way, I said that because now
you don't have one.
Thank you. Everybody was about to hop on me in the chat. I promise new music's coming soon. And no, I don't have the XFL halftime show. So we're moving on here. Let's do the prop, Zook. MVP. Right. Jordan Ta'amu got to be the favorite, right? Keep in mind, unofficial odds provided by the Springball Boulevard Sportsbook here. You cannot bet these numbers unless maybe you want to take some action with us.
We made them up.
Jordan Ta'amu minus 110, the favorite. Abram Smith is a runner-up. I like him at plus 150. And Luis Perez, you got to think with him, it's more of like, first of all, is Arlington going to win? So you take their money line, which I believe right now is about plus 250 or so.
Right. So if Arlington wins, Perez is going to get it.
Most likely. Right.
So that's not a terrible bet if you think that Arlington.
Right, but it's at plus 350 for that reason. If I had to pick one of the, I guess we'll go rapid fire here. I said before, I don't think Abram Smith's gotta win it for DC. I think the quarterbacks will. Derek King, kind of sneaky. You don't know what'll happen. I'll take Jordan. I like the betting favorite here. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I just to lay some money on it. I think I'd like the Perez at plus 350.
There you go. So contradicting himself again.
I'm just saying, if it's
on to the first touchdown score here.
This is a fun thing.
Well, yeah. If you're quarterbacks, you got to remember you can't score with a passing touchdown. It's got to be a rushing on the first touchdown score. So think about it this way. You're looking at running backs. Abram Smith, minus 120. Davion Smith, plus 120. I like Lucky Jackson as a little long shot here, plus 380. It heavily depends on who gets the ball first. Arlington's had issues settling for field goals. Derek King might be one here where you maybe put him in the goal line package, but not to be so vanilla, but I like Abram Smith. I think he gets a goal line. Davion?
Not listed. I like Sal.
Ooh. See, I'd like him more anytime touchdown. Let me look up quick. We'll do the Springball computer. What is he? Sal Cannella, first touchdown score at plus 1,300.
I like it.
Has yet to find the end zone this year.
I love it.
Could be a good one. Let's roll on to most receiving yards. Lucky Jackson, the favorite at plus 180. Chris Blair, who I think leads DC in receiving yards from 20 yards a catch or so, plus 250. Javante Payton, sneaky, at plus 400 now. Are you going off the board here again, Zook? I think I'm taking Blair. I like Blair to bring.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm getting plus 250 with the receiving leader, I get Jackson as the wide receiver 1. But, man, what Blair can do after the catch is scary.
It is scary.
That speed. And remember, Jackson's going to be drawing Devontae Bosby most of the day.
Yeah.
That second corner we talked about at Arlington will be a mismatch. So Chris Blair, Brandon Smith, Josh Hammond, some guys to watch.
On the value, Blair all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anytime touchdown. We went with some long shots here on the board. Alex Ellis for DC is my pick. Plus 600. Ellis has 4 touchdowns this year. He's been great in the red zone, and he played for Arlington the first half of the season. So big stakes for Alex Ellis. Kind of had a so-so game against them week 9. I'm taking Ellis here, plus 600, anytime touchdown. What do you think? Look, your guy Canella's there on the board?
No, I'm taking Abram Smith.
Oh, my gosh, minus 300.
I'm taking it.
Playing some major juice.
I don't care. It's not minus 300, but I'm taking it.
You know, I mean, if DC's scoring 35 points and Abram Smith doesn't score a touchdown, he must have got hurt. And we will void your bet at the Springball Sportsbook if one of these players gets hurt.
We don't have it, but I would bet Smith 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that could be a bet.
That would be the bet that we're
Absolutely.
missing.
And how about a final one here? The Pedialyte shower. Based on the color, a lot of you do this for the big game in the NFL. I don't know why I'm avoiding saying Super Bowl. I've already said it like 6 times. So we're not corporate here. The Pedialyte shower, not the Gatorade shower. The Pedialyte, the official sports drink of the XFL. Plus 600 for Renegade Blue. 650 for Defender District Red. And yellow, I guess little lemon lime, Pedialyte Sport at minus 120. Now remember, when Reggie Barlow got dunked with the Gatorade in that last win against Seattle, what did he do, Zook? It was ice water. So do we add clear to the book here?
You could add clear. I'm taking red because I think it's going to stain well with that white jacket that he wears.
He does wear that Under Armour smooth, silky jacket, and the ice water kind of poured right off him. It's got to be District Red.
Right.
Because the DC Defenders are winning this game. So that is your championship props. Please bet responsibly. And our one final best bets segment of the year. 2 more chances for Zook and I to improve our overall record. If I'm remembering correctly, I am 12-10. You, sir, are 7-5.
That is correct.
We get 1 more crack each at this. I'm going with a side, and you are going with?
I'm taking a total. My first total of the year. Let's
Are you trolling me?
I'm not trolling you.
You're just trying to do this because I didn't hit a total. And you want to say I was 100% in totals. When we gave you the best bettor on the Boulevard in the Freshie Awards, I know that upset you when I wrote he is 0-0 on totals.
Did. That's not why I bet it, though.
You said it was going to be 35-23. You're clearing it by 10 points.
Yeah. I told you it was a little bit of foreshadowing. I got it. Let's go.
DC this year in 11 games was 8-3 against the spread. The official betting record of Matty Fresh on Springball Boulevard is 12-10. You do the math. That means that I was 4-8 on bets outside of the DC Defenders.
Right.
So it would be very unwise of me to go anywhere else but to say the DC Defenders will win. They will cover. I've got the future at plus 650 from months ago, and now I've got minus 6. DC 29-15 winners over Arlington, putting Zook just short of the over. That'd be 44.
Over, Sam.
Better hope for some defensive points here.
I'm not gonna go ahead and be bold and be like, it's the stone cold lock of the century. Over. There's no way this game can't go over. I'm not gonna be you.
He's got 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door already.
Listen,
those are our XFL championship best bets.
I'm gonna enjoy it.
Tail or fade responsibly. Guys, what an episode it was. We hope you learned a thing or two about the XFL. We know that we have from you. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And thank you for something we haven't mentioned yet, for watching our AJ McCarron Springball Series exclusive. That video doing very well. A lot of you guys sharing it. We really wanted to get the most out of AJ, and We appreciate you watching and sharing that content. But this weekend, it's about the DC Defenders and the Arlington Renegades. And for me, coming up on Monday, the most special Victory Monday that I will ever have. So for Chris Zook in the control room, I am Matty Fresh. You always remember, there is no such thing as football season. We'll see you in San Antonio for the championship game. Adios.